Hello, hello, friends. How are we doing today? This is Josh Goldstein coming to you live. I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm doing a webinar today on delayed immigration cases and what you can do about it. I know everybody has lots of questions about this sort of thing. So bear with me while we get started. Hang on just a bit. All right. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. So tech support here. Let's see here. All right. Chrome. All right. We're going back to the beginning. Coming right up. I'm warming up. All right. Bear with me. All right. Let's see here. All right. So today we're going to be talking about the 7 steps to a visa delay mandamus lawsuit. That's the technique that I use to get delayed immigration cases approved. And I'm going to be walking you through what you need to know to make this happen. But before we get started on that, who am I? If you don't know me, my name is Josh Goldstein. I'm an immigration lawyer in Los Angeles. Our firm also has an office in Boston, and we help people all over the world and across the United States who have delayed immigration cases, delayed green cards, delayed visas. And my passion for this work is based out of a belief that everyone should be treated fairly and everyone's case should be processed in a reasonable way. I think families should be together, and the immigration paperwork and incompetence from the bureaucracy shouldn't stand in that way. And that's what drives me to file these cases. I'm also a family man, as it says here on the slide. I'm a family man. I have a beautiful wife and 2 amazing boys. I have a 3-year-old and a guy who's almost going to be 6. The second bullet point, I'm a squash enthusiast. That's my passion. It's a racket sport, kind of like a little bit like tennis, a little bit like racquetball. It's inside, it's in a court. It's what I do to have fun and stay in shape. And my main passion professionally is fighting unreasonable delays to help immigrants and their families. All right, so that's me. I filed my first mandamus lawsuit to challenge a delayed processing in 2004. It was 2005, actually. It was a long time ago. It was so long ago that I can barely remember, but it was a very, very long time ago. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm all about. So, did you file an immigration case? Maybe you filed a petition for your wife or your fiance, or if you have asylum, maybe you filed a petition for your children or your wife or your husband. Maybe you applied for a green card. Well, when you first filed this case, you were probably excited. You're engaged to get married, or you just got married. Maybe you have an opportunity to work in the United States, but whatever it was, what started you on your journey with immigration was something that you were really passionate about at that time. And I want you to remember that feeling that you had. When you have dreams of moving to the US or getting a green card or getting a work permit, that's super exciting. And that's something that I want everyone to focus on, that feeling that you had when you first got started, because that's what I want you to rediscover that, because you can get lost throughout the process and you forget that excitement that you first had. Well, after you applied, what happened? All of a sudden, something went wrong, and maybe your case hasn't gotten processed in a reasonable time period. Maybe you were told that there was a security check or a background check, or maybe you've been given no reason at all, and that's even more frustrating. There's a lot of vocabulary that gets thrown around. Sometimes the consulate will say that your visa was refused, and you're like, well, refused, what does that mean? Or maybe they'll say you're in 221G. 221G, what's 221G? What's administrative processing? These are all just different fancy words that mean the same thing. They mean that your case is delayed and it's on hold. And so don't think that administrative processing is anything special. It just means that you had a visa interview and you're delayed. 221G means that you had a visa interview and your case is delayed. Refused means the same thing. You had your interview and you're delayed. Where I come from, refused means denied. If you call up and order a pizza and you say, I want a double cheese pizza with pepperoni, and they say, I refuse to give you a pizza, well, then you're denied. You're not going to get the pizza. But the visa, in the visa world, the word refused means that you're delayed. So I want you to keep that in mind. It does not mean denied. So when you're in this holding pattern, it's very, very frustrating. You keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and even more waiting. So let's go through the steps that we use to evaluate what to do with a delayed case. So first of all, we review the facts and determine if the delay meets a legal threshold. So the basis of a lawsuit to challenge a delay is that the delay has been unreasonable. What does that mean? What does it mean? Unreasonable delay means different things to different people. My standard, and this is just me professionally, is that if you filed a petition, a visa petition, and an entire year has gone by and the visa hasn't been issued, that generally is not reasonable. It's not reasonable that a case should take more than a year. If you had a visa interview for a non-immigrant visa, a student visa, a J visa, an L visa, an O or H-1B visa, some sort of visa like that, and 4 or 5 months have gone by and you haven't gotten a decision yet, that is not reasonable. And so that's the rule that I use to determine whether a delay has been reasonable or not. And sometimes people say, well, the consulate told me that I needed to wait 90 days. The consulate told me I needed to wait 180 days, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't believe there's any reason to wait unless you think that the consulate is going to approve you within a fixed period of time. But you shouldn't wait just because they sent you an automated message saying that you needed to wait. So once we determine that a delay has occurred, an unreasonable delay that has occurred, we file a lawsuit against all potentially responsible agencies. So we add the FBI, the State Department, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice. We add the consulate. We add officers at the consulate. There are other parties that we name as well. But we add all potentially responsible agencies. Now, why do we add the FBI or the consular officers or the Department of Justice? Why do we add all of these agencies? Maybe we should only be adding one agency or two agencies. The reason that I add all of these agencies is I don't want any agency to say, well, you were supposed to add this other agency and you didn't add them, and it's their fault. And then, you know, some other agency may be pointing the blame at a different agency. We don't know what's causing the delay. We add all the parties, we sue everyone. That's the strategy that we use. So after we file the lawsuit, there's a formal legal process by which we notify the defendants of the lawsuit, and it's called service of process. And basically what we do is we send by certified mail a copy of the complaint and a summons, which the court generates. We send that to each of the defendants. And we also actually file such a high volume of these lawsuits that we have on staff a service of process agent in DC that files them in person, because we found that this is faster than using the mail system. But basically, we put them on notice that they're being sued and they have to go to court. The federal rules of civil procedure give the defendants 60 days to respond in court. So our best results are that people get approved within 60 days, in less than 60 days. But it's not always possible, and sometimes it takes longer than 60 days. But that's how long they have to respond. So if there is no final decision within the 60 days, then there are a couple different possibilities. One is that the defendants might ask for additional time to respond to the lawsuit. So that recognizes that it may take them more than 60 days to process the paperwork. The other possibility is that the defendants could fight back and file a motion to dismiss. And if so, we fight back and we file a motion for summary judgment. What do these things mean, a motion to dismiss or a motion for summary judgment? It's just litigation. It's just a disagreement based on the law and the facts about what should happen. In no case that I've ever been involved with has a defendant's motion to dismiss been granted. Not yet. So we litigate these delays. That's what we do. So at some point, if it's not within the 60 days, it could take longer, but at some point, the green card or the visa is approved or possibly even denied. And after we've reached an ultimate outcome, we dismiss the lawsuit. Mission accomplished. Now, the question that people ask is, well, how long is this going to take? And I'll get into that a little bit later. Most of our clients get their approval in about 4 months, but of course, it could take longer than 4 months, and the approval of the visa is it's not a guarantee. So let's go through some of the most frequently asked questions, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. So the first one, how do I know if I'm eligible? Well, what you're looking for is an approvable case, a case that deserves to be approved on the merits. And that's the best case. And in addition to that, you're looking for a case where there's been an unreasonable delay. The guideline that I use is that a year has gone by since the filing of a I-130, a visa petition, or an I-730 or an I-129F. At least 1 year has gone by. And if it's for a different type of case, maybe it's a work permit or a non-immigrant visa, I'm looking for about 4 or 5 months from the visa interview to that point. At that point, I believe that the delay has been unreasonable, and you could litigate that. So here's another big question. Will the government retaliate? Is the government going to get mad at you and deny your visa automatically because you sued them? This is probably the #1 question that I get from people. They're afraid of some sort of pushback, and I'm here to say that this will not occur. You may not get approved. If there's a problem with your case, you may not get approved. But it won't be because you filed the lawsuit. There are no negative repercussions from filing the lawsuit. There's no retaliation that I've ever seen in my career. In fact, many of my clients feel that they have been treated much better after they filed a lawsuit. I have a client recently who called me and said, "I can't believe it." And I said, "What happened?" They said, "Well, the consulate just called me and my cell phone, and they asked me when I could come in to drop off my passport." And he said, "Wow, I can't believe they called me on my cell phone. I can never even get them to return my emails or anything." And he was very pleased with that. And that happened after we filed the lawsuit. Here's another question. Is the lawsuit guaranteed? People say, "Well, I want to hire you to file the lawsuit but is it 100% guaranteed that I'm going to be approved? Is it 100% guaranteed that I'm going to be approved within a very fixed period of time?" And the answer is no. This is litigation. Not every person who hires me gets approved. Not every person who hires me gets approved within a very fixed period of time. The decision is not in my hands. You should think of this as a best effort to get your delay resolved. The question you should ask yourself is not whether the lawsuit is guaranteed. You should ask yourself, which would you rather do? Keep waiting blindly and hope that the consulate or USCIS gets around to processing your paperwork, or would you prefer to take action? And many of my clients who've gotten approved understand that there's no way to make things move along without a lawsuit. And if you keep waiting, you'll lead to more waiting and more frustration. Another question. How long does a lawsuit take? Well, once we're hired, we typically prepare the lawsuit within a week. Oftentimes we get it done within a couple of days. We don't file any lawsuit until our clients have reviewed and approved the paperwork. But it takes us only a few days to file and prepare and file the lawsuit. The question then is, how long will it take before you get your visa approved or you get a final decision on your case? And the answer to that is, it depends. My best results are 2 months or less. Typically, most cases right now are taking about 4 to 6 months, but the actual amount of time that it takes to process depends on a lot of factors. It depends on what particular type of case you have, where in the process, the overall visa application process, where is your case? Are you waiting for a decision from USCIS? Are you stuck at the NBC with no interview? Have you already had an interview? Was the interview recent? So all these things influence the amount of time that takes. Depends on which judge you get, which court you're in. All these things vary. So it's hard to say precisely, but I think most of my cases are resolved these days in about 4 to 6 months. Certainly, it's possible things could take longer or things could go much faster than that, but that's a general rough guideline. What other options can I start with? Well, it's hard to say. I mean, people always say, well, sometimes people will say, well, I don't want to do a lawsuit. I'm not ready to do a lawsuit, but can you just call them? Can you call the consulate? Can you write them a letter? I don't want to sue them, but I just want you to call them or write them a letter. None of that's going to work, because you know that if you email the consulate or you call the consulate and you ask them for a status inquiry and you ask them for an update, you ask them what's going on, what's the holdup, they will give you a response that is the equivalent of no response. It will be meaningless. And so I don't know. I don't know of any other way to get the attention of the consulate right now. People ask me sometimes people want to hire me to do what they call an expedite request, where you say, look, here's the emergency that's going on. I want you to formally request that our case be expedited. And I have found that this is time consuming and ineffective. So we do not provide one-on-one assistance with expedite requests for that reason. But you certainly, you can put in an expedite request. Similarly, you can contact your U.S. Senator or your congressional representative, and you can ask them to inquire as to the status of your case on your behalf. Is this going to effectively resolve your delay? Probably not, but it's certainly not a bad thing to do. I wouldn't put much effort into it. There's no requirement that you do that. You don't have to do that before filing a lawsuit. But if you would like to do something other than filing a lawsuit, that's something that you can do as well. What to do now? I think everyone who's going through the immigration process, no matter what kind of case you have, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you have a fundamental question. And that is, if your case is delayed, should you keep waiting, or should you sue and take action? And there is a lot of uncertainty right now. We still have the pandemic. We have closures of consulates. We have a lot of noise in the background. And a lot of times when people are faced with this type of noise, they get indecisive and they think, well, I'm just going to wait. The website says that the consulate is closed, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And they think of all these reasons to wait. But I'm here to say that I have many, many clients who've hired me to file lawsuits, who've gotten their cases approved, who would otherwise still be waiting if they had not chosen to take action. But fundamentally, when the question is what to do now, that really boils down to, are you okay with waiting? Do you want to keep waiting, or are you ready to take action? So I have a link here, and I'll leave this up in the webinar. If you're ready, if you would like to talk to us about potentially moving forward with a lawsuit, you can book a free consultation with our team, and they can review with you the facts of your case, whether you qualify for representation, what we can do to help you. I would encourage you to do that. It's free, and for now it's free at least. I'm going to leave this link up. I hope it's helpful. And that is that's the fundamental issue and the way for you to move forward right now. I hope this is helpful, and I'll be back in time with more questions. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. Here I am. I'm back. All right. That's the end of my webinar. And now here I am with you, friends, and ready to answer your questions directly. I have my good friend, Mr. Jitanda. I owe you a call, and I will be in touch with you right away. Here we have Nicole, who is an amazingly talented piano player. Everyone should take lessons from her. Thank you for your compliment. Paula, thank you for joining me. You have a friend who has a delayed green card and he's been waiting for 4 years. Well, let's figure out what's going on. And I would love to help you with that. Hang on just 1 minute. I'm going to put a link in here. Let's see. Hang on a second. Yeah, Paula, I'm going to put, this is a link right here where you can book a call with my team. It's free. So I'll leave that up. and you can do that. But I'd love to chat with you about that. Let's see what other questions we have. Catherine, thank you for joining us from YouTube. Happy Friday. Bobby Joe, your team is the best. Thank you. It's great to hear from everyone. I'm making a whole bunch of new videos, and I will be sharing them with you very soon. Mad Max, can you ask a question? Please do. Please ask any question you like. I'd love to try to answer your questions. Here's one. Brother, the vaccines are obligated for K-1 visa. Not to my knowledge. There's no such requirement. Jason, I'm glad the presentation was helpful. Let me know if you have some questions. How's everybody doing? That's my question I have for you. I know things are hard. And I think with the visa situation in October and November before the election, I think people were very anxious about things because we didn't know what was going to happen with the election. But once the election happened, there was a question about what was going to happen when Biden got elected. And there was a lot of excitement. And when Biden got elected, we thought, oh my God, all the visas are going to be processed, and nobody's going to have to worry about visa delays anymore, because that was a big issue in 2020. But we found that here we are in almost, well, what is it today? Middle of May. We still have the delays. Many visas are still stuck, and that's so frustrating. And a lot of times people are just getting discouraged, especially people with F1 visas. And I think now is the time where you really have to push forward and consider what you can do to take action. I think that's the best way forward. And, there's no, let's see, here's a question. I want to ask you a question about my spouse visa. My case was approved in March of 2020, but I'm still waiting for my interview. Please tell me when I can get my interview date from Pakistan. So thank you for your question, Maywish. I really appreciate it. Eid Mubarak to you, by the way. And I hope things are going well in Pakistan. When it says your case was approved in March 2020 and you're waiting for your interview, that to me sounds like an unreasonable delay. It sounds to me like you've waited way too long for your interview, because if your case was approved in March of 2020, that means that you're still stuck more than a year later without even being interviewed. And the question you asked me is, when are you going to get your interview? And the answer is, who knows? It's already been more than a year from the date of approval. Maybe it could be another year. Maybe it could be 2 more years. They're clearly not in any hurry to interview you. And those are cases that I encourage people to consider filing a lawsuit. Challenge the delay. Fight back against the delay. And, make them go to court and answer questions about why you haven't had your interview. Where's the paperwork? What's the issue? That's what I recommend that you consider doing. And so I can't tell you when you'll get your interview, but I'm sure you're incredibly frustrated. I would be frustrated if I were you. And that's a case that definitely qualifies for representation. I would look into that. Here's a case for Mad Max. First of all, thank you for our friend from YouTube for joining us. I really appreciate it. It says, hi, our case F2B is pending at the ISL Islamabad consulate since November 2017, and it went into administrative processing, and it was returned to the NBC, reaffirmed by USCIS, and refused. Since then, we are waiting, waiting, and waiting. Well, let me explain a little bit about what happened by way of background. So, our friend Mad Max looks like he had an interview at the consulate in Islamabad. After the interview, it went into administrative processing, and then the consulate said, we're sending this back to the NBC for possible revocation. There was some issue. And our friend Mad Max, he won. He won that case because then they sent it back. It was reaffirmed by USCIS. So congratulations to you, my friend. And then after that, it looks like he had another interview at the consulate in Islamabad, maybe not, and it said that they were refused. So, my friend, they are giving you the runaround. They are just making you wait and wait and wait. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's right. And I would fight them. I would file a lawsuit and make them process your paperwork. Challenge the delay. Challenge it. That's what I would do if I were you. And I would encourage you to reach out to our intake team or give us a call and schedule a time to meet. So many of our clients and friends are from Pakistan, and we've had great success getting cases approved. Here's another thing to consider. There's a lot of uncertainty right now about what's happening in the world. And, look at what's going on in India. We now have a horrible, horrible pandemic in India. And that sort of dynamic is playing out across South Asia and Nepal and Bangladesh and other places. Time is not on your side. And if you have these sorts of delays, you should consider fighting back and challenging the delay. Maywish said, my case is still at the NBC, and they said the U.S. Embassy will tell us about the available dates. They said they have a backlog issue. Well, here's my question for you. Are you going to take that? Are you just going to keep waiting? Or are you going to challenge the delay? Because a lot of times what they'll say is they're not routinely processing visas, and they're only processing cases on an emergency basis. But if you file a lawsuit, your case becomes a priority. It becomes an emergency. It's an emergency for them. They have to process your paperwork. So I would encourage you to consider challenging this delay and fighting back. That's what I recommend. Because there's only two ways out, as I said in the presentation. You can keep waiting or you can take action. And the only reason that I think anyone should ever wait is if they think that waiting will result in the approval of their case. And for a lot of times when people have been waiting a year or 9 months or many months, I don't think it's reasonable to keep waiting. All right, a friend of ours from Facebook. Hey, Josh. Thanks, George. Hey, Josh, my I-130 for my visa is already 10 months in processing. When is a good time to take action? We have a policy of only working with people whose cases are delayed for 1 year. So I would say another month or so, it's time to begin processing. I'm sorry that your visa is taking so long, and I hope that you get approved tomorrow or today. But if not, we're here for you, and I would say you're almost there. Joe, our friend from Facebook, thank you for tuning in. It says my IR-5 has been documentarily qualified February of 2021. That's good news. And my interview location is the Bahamas. Do you know how long I have to wait? Can I travel to and from the US until the interview is scheduled? Okay. So let me break this down. First of all, I don't know when your interview will be scheduled. I hope it will be scheduled soon. And secondly, can you travel to and from the US while things are pending? I would say I would say it's possible. It's possible if you have a visa to come to the US, you can do that. But you have to be back in time for the interview. And you also have to know that if you're trying to come into the US as a visitor, you have to prove that you're going to return to your home country and you're not going to overstay your visa. You also have to deal with COVID restrictions in terms of traveling. Here we have a friend in Germany on YouTube. I will not try to, okay, I'll try to say your name. Osanu? I hope I got that. Didn't butcher that up too much. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, my friend. Says here, I'm in Germany. Do I need to get the vaccine to get in the US with a K1 visa? I believe, as far as I know, that the process of getting a K1 visa involves getting a medical exam, and the K1, the medical exam does not require any kind of a vaccine. Mad Max is giving us a little more information. So the catch is they're investigating as potential fraud, but we're innocent. Recently in April, there was a brother interviewed, and the CO, consular officer, upon inquiry responded for remaining brothers, so no more interviews. Your case is very fact specific, but here's the deal. They sent your case to USCIS, and USCIS investigated, and they reaffirmed the approval, my friend. So I don't think they should issue the visa to you. And if there's a delay, I encourage you to fight back. That's what I would encourage you to do. If you have questions or need help, reach out to me. Let me know. Hope everyone's doing amazing and having a great weekend. And I'll be back in touch with more information soon. Take care.